What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Vault Reviews, where music still matters. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the latest release by Flatbush Zombies. It's the Robbie Davis special, so I'm just kicking it right over to him. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. I was so pumped about this album. I've waited probably about 3 or 4 years for this album to drop. So of course, when it came out, I was like ecstatic. I'm sure people were completely sick of hearing me talk about it. But for those of you that don't know about the Flatbush Zombies, there's three of them. They're from Flatbush, Brooklyn, which is not the nicest neighborhood that you've probably ever seen. The group itself is made up of, like I said, three people. You've got Michi Darko, Zombie Juice, and Eric the Architect Elliott. Eric is the one who does all their beats, all their production, everything from the beginning, always has. An amazing group, super artistic, so out of the box that I don't think that there's been anybody quite this original as far as underground hip-hop in a long time. A lot of these rappers are cookie cutter. They try to sound like each other, that kind of thing. These guys do not follow that lead. So, like I said, I couldn't be more pumped to do this album. Was even more pumped for it to be released. But I'm actually going to go ahead and pass it off to you, Jessamine, because I know you've got some facts about the album itself. So.
Absolutely. This album was released March 11th of this year. This was their debut studio album. And Robbie, how many projects have they released before this?
Before this one, the 3001 Laced Odyssey, that being, they have got two like regular mixtapes for themselves. One's called Drugs. It's spelled D-R-U-G-S. I can't remember what it stands for off the top of my head. But they also have Better Off Dead. And then also with the Underachievers, they did an album called Clockwork Indigo, which is an amazing album all in itself. And for some reason, I just love how they name their stuff after all these. Both of them, I guess, have been after Stanley Kubrick movies.
Yeah,
which I think
that
is a pretty interesting choice,
That is super cool. I think it fits in well with as far as the overall image and persona, perhaps, that they're trying to that they're going after, as far as that very psychedelic kind of feel to it. But this is their debut studio album. As Robbie mentioned earlier, this is on their own indie label, the Glorious Dead Records. This is something that you kind of see throughout the album. They are spending a decent amount of time setting up who they are as far as their position in the rap game, I would say, looking at things straight across there as far as what makes them different, what sets them apart from everyone else, which it really is a lot. The album art, I thought, was notable. It's beautiful. If you didn't get a chance to check that out, make sure that you give that a peep. David Nakayama, who worked on Deadpool, Big Hero 6, among other projects, did that album art. And something else that Robbie mentioned is that this album has a single producer, which in hip-hop is almost unheard of. You'll have an executive producer or two, and then you'll have individual tracks. It's not unheard of to have individual tracks produced by individuals all the way through, and one or two people overseeing the entire album, but every track being, having the oversight of a different person. This entire album was produced by one person, Eric the Architect Elliott, which is outstanding to me. Looking at it just from a respect standpoint, that is almost unheard of, and he's in the group. And that's something else that's also you see very seldom as far as being on both sides of the booth. That's a huge responsibility, and so that's incredibly notable. The first single off the album was Bounce, that was released in February of this year, and then This Is It was the second single that came out right before the album's release. It debuted at number 10 on the Billboard 200. It sold 28,000 copies in the first week, which was pretty impressive there. But yeah, that's pretty much your overview of the album as a whole. Looking at it from a critical standpoint, Metacritic I believe they pulled in 12 different reviews from different critical sites, and they gave it an 80 out of 100. So that's pooling a number of different sites. So kind of from an overview, some fun facts, and then an overview standpoint where we're coming from on this. I'll turn it back over to Zan.
I'll save, I guess, most of my thoughts for actually when we get into it. But I had heard of these guys, actually, Robbie, before you even told me about them. I saw like a preview of the album art for this, like just on some random music website I was checking, and I was like, all right, this is going to be way, way different, strictly because of the album art, and I was definitely not let down. But Anthony, you got anything to say on it real quick before we start getting into it?
Um, Other than I love this album. I think it's great. Yeah, definitely one of the first things that attracted me was definitely the album art, and I didn't look too much into it. I just stared at it and was like, well, this looks like it's going to be pretty cool. And
Right.
thanks to Robbie, now I got to listen to it, and it's awesome.
All right,
Yeah.
Robbie, kick things off. Let's
Well,
start
first off,
breaking it down.
I want to say that, I get really, really pumped up about stuff like this, like especially certain artists I really like. It's not very often that I show Flatbush Zombies to somebody and they're like, dude, that was awesome. Usually it's like, I don't know what these guys are going for, and it's like, just listen, just listen, and they don't give it a chance. But so I love that you like it, Anthony, though. It doesn't happen too often. So one thing I want to point out is this thing. I saw an interview with Michi Darko, and he talks about the song A Spike Lee Joint. Now, I first want to point out he doesn't have a verse on this song, but he was down in the ghetto. Spike Lee, I guess, is out there filming a movie or something, and Michi Darko was like, hey, man, much love, or, something from a distance. He said he basically just got straight shut down by Spike Lee. Dude looked him right in the eye, looked right over him, and said what's up to somebody behind him, and he was like, that guy pissed me off. So he went home, named this song after him. Not sure how it's a diss towards him, but that's why A Spike Lee Joint is called that. He did point out, too, that he might have looked a little intimidating with no shirt on and a pit bull, in the ghetto. So Spike Lee might have had good reason not to associate. There's just a small little tidbit I wanted to throw out there. The first thing that I want to praise on this album is the beats. The production, the beats are brilliant. They're awesome. Every single beat is on point on this album. Whether you like the raps on it or not, you cannot deny these beats. I mean, they are, like I said, so on point. I don't think he could have done a better job on it.
I'll beg to differ on that, but I'll wait.
Oh, really? Don't wait. I brought it up. Talk about it.
No, I'll wait for the negatives. We got to keep praising, and that's how we do things here. Keep going.
Hey,
or turn it to Jasmine or Anthony. We got to talk about the good things, the songs you like.
Right. All right. Well, I'll tell you this. You're going to be pretty disappointed in me when it gets to the negatives on this because I may not have a whole lot. Also about these guys, one thing I like is that, like I said, they are so original. They're so outside the box. You don't see many rappers nowadays wearing Grateful Dead T-shirts and talking about taking hallucinogens, and just their whole style in general is not something that I've personally ever seen before. Now, I mean, so that's another point that I really like. Justin, what do you got here as far as positives? I haven't got into songs yet, but
I really thought this was an incredibly authentic album. There were some things, and I will save those for criticisms, that I thought that I did feel that while it is incredibly authentic, they are also trying to market themselves as a particular product, which in today's world, I think you kind of have to do, as far as if you want to be seen as something different and something that's not dime a dozen, and it's not necessarily a gimmick if it's authentic. And I think with these people, it's authentic, but it's also kind of their vehicle, if you will. And so, there are times that I think that's overdone, but most of the time they really toe that line, and they're right there, and I like it. They push it to that point. Like you said, beats, I think the beats are outstanding, and I also think even if you don't like, and taking kind of what you said, Robbie, a step further, you said even if you don't like the raps on those beats, I would say even if you don't like the words of the raps on those beats, you have to acknowledge the raps themselves as far as the human voice as a rhythmic instrument in this whole compilation, I think is outstanding, and I think that's done top to bottom. So as far as overalls, my favorite song on the whole album was Trade Off. That's been one that's been in my head incessantly. I kind of threw out whenever we were talking before that I thought this perhaps should have been their first single. I was kind of looking at that naively as if they're only going to have 2 singles off this, and Robbie, I think it was, suggested that perhaps this might be their next single, and I think that would be a great choice, just because it's incredibly catchy, and also something else that I liked is that the bass doesn't drown out the other elements of these songs as far as what else is going on, instrumentation, vocally. You can hear all of those, and vocally down to the individual vocal timbres of their voices themselves, because they all have very different sounding voices, and I think each track allows their individual vocal qualities to shine. So that's what I dig. Bone, what you got?
That's exactly what I was going to say. That was the first thing that I thought of whenever I started listening to the album itself, was just how, I first had to look up to see how many actual dudes were in the band or in the group. There's 3 of them, but on almost every single track, if you're listening to the lyrics, we're not actually looking up who does which part, it sounds like there's like at least 6 dudes in the band or more, because they all have a complete different sound each time they say, one whole entire verse will sound like an entire different person. That's probably my number one favorite thing about it so far. That's great.
Cool.
Yeah. Being able to keep it real, keep it different, not follow the same path all the time. And I come back a little bit what Jessamine was saying about me talking about Trade Off being their next single. Their last single video they had before this album was released was Thug Waffle. And so, this video and the song is basically all about smoking the herb. And they haven't had a single like that yet off of this album. And that's kind of like what I think people expect from them. And that's kind of why I think that Trade Off will be their next release. Because it does have that aspect. It's not all about, getting high and stuff. But they, of course, talk about it. And
Robbie, do you not think that This Is It will leave a legacy, perhaps, of being perhaps a smoking the herbs song because of the music video, even though it's not that necessarily? They do talk. It is mentioned. It's not the sole, what's going on in that song. But I feel like with that video, they definitely put it out there. That was very clear that is one of their large tenets.
Well, like we're kind of talking about, This Is It was them, I think, coming out basically like, this is who we are, this is what we're about, take it right here because this is it, And so I just think that's more of like a statement, kind of like maybe trying to prepare people that haven't heard of them before, for what they're in store for. Because if you go into this blind, you like you said, you may hate it, or like you said, you may have to listen to it a few times before it like clicks, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I kind of get that now. But my favorite songs on this album, one of them was Trade Off. That is my number one favorite on here as well. Now, I also really, really dug Fly Away. It's not even a rap song. Michi Darko, it's solely Michi Darko. He sings the entire thing. He doesn't rap, and it's deep, man. It's like a song about his mortality and existence and place in the world. It's real soulful, even though he's like real raspy and grimy sounding, But man, he did a great job. I just love the originality in that song. It's totally different than anything else on the album. My other favorite one was Ascension. The lyrical content of Ascension is awesome, I think. We're trying to be better than God. What am I saying? I haven't even entered my prime, so like, to me that's saying, we're trying to be better and we almost are, but I haven't even hit my prime yet, so I'm only gonna be better. And I think that's awesome. Like I said, they make a lot of good points, or throw a lot of good points at you as far as where they stand. So those were my 3 favorites.
I also like Ascension. That was my favorite song on the album. Second favorite song was R.I.P.C.D., and that was, I think, mainly because like I can totally relate. I'm like, man, like I can't play my CDs in anything anymore. There's nothing to do at all. So I thought that was cool. New Phone Who Dis, that was pretty cool. And then just kind of a cool thing I thought was the very last song, your favorite rap song, where they, what was it, probably 10 minutes or so of just fan calls, leaving voicemails.
Yeah,
I thought that was super cool. I've heard a couple of artists do that, but not to this length, where they almost turn a full song into it. So those were my favorite songs. And then I'll have some more good things to say about it towards the end. But Anthony, did you want to say of any other songs you particularly like?
I think we all pretty much liked all the same songs. I liked Spike Lee Joint was really good, and then definitely Ascension for that really loud part that they sing out. It sounds like there's like a whole army of men singing it. That's to me, it's kind of Broadway-ish sounding, but it also sounds like a platoon of men in the army or something kind of singing it. And I've never heard that type of aspect in a rap song before, and that definitely caught my eye. And probably This Is It those are the top three for me. Fantastic songs.
I want to comment on you saying, bringing up that it's kind of like a Broadway sound, because whenever they sing that song, I immediately get like this image in my head of like, this, like you said, like a whole army of people and like the light shining down on them, and like, I don't know, my mind works crazy. But, you know what I mean, it gives you this nice mental image just from hearing it. So I think it's a good comparison for sure.
All right, Robbie, kick things off with the negatives since you won't have many.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna go ahead and get that out of the way. The only negative is like lyrically, I don't connect or like relate with a lot of the lyrics, but they're so original. I don't not like any song on this album. My only negative is that I just don't relate with what they talk about a lot, which isn't always gonna happen. So that's all the negative I have. Zan, wanna go ahead with your list?
You want me to go first? Okay. For second, I got it. I was disappointed in the beats. There was, I thought at least half of them were not bad, but the songs I like, they're pretty heavy beats, and then some of this stuff was not bad. It was just super light. I don't know. I mean, I loved. There's no songs I hated, because even if you wanted me to pick my worst song, I thought it's still good because it's so weird. So no bad songs, but I think with the cover art, I had a little bit of a misconception. I was expecting some more stuff like Ascension. I was expecting a whole album of Ascension type songs with just all kinds of weird stuff and super heavy beats, and I did not get that. So, Jessamine, you're up next.
Did you order this on vinyl, Zan?
No, but it's tempting just for the album art alone. I mean,
I'm going to.
I thought you might, and I'm pretty sure the vinyl or the records are bright purple also.
Nice. Jessamine, you're up.
I'm going to say this. It's kind of taken us a second to do this interview. We've been or to do this review. We've been talking about it for a while. Robbie's been talking about it for a long time. And so I've been trying to get into it since March, essentially, and only in the last week have I really gotten into it. And I kept telling myself when I was listening to it that there was something that I was missing. And normally with albums like this that are I think incredibly creative and don't follow the cookie cutter kind of format protocol for songs, normally I get into those immediately, and it took me a number of listens top to bottom for me to really start getting into it. And at this point I would say that there's not a track on the album that I hate, but yeah, there are some moments where I feel like it isn't dynamic enough on a vocal level. You can only I get bored when someone stays at just one pitch throughout an entire verse. It gets very boring to me, and there are moments throughout this album that have that. That was something I didn't like, and also something that I wanted to point out is that in that, like I said earlier, in trying to create this image that I think they're going after, I do feel like that they are pushing that maybe a little too far sometimes, as far as this shocking, there's a movie, but anyway, the quote is, shock me with your deviant behavior. Empire Records is the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at that, that whole idea of like watch how rebellious we can be, watch how out there we can be. Look how crazy I am. Look how many crazy pills I take for crazy people. And that also gets very old to me. I find that it's move on to something else. But I did find within this album that they really did move on past that, and also looking at what goes into it, I also have a deeper appreciation for it as well.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's
also what if that's just who they are? They act like that on a regular.
That's what I was going to say. I really believe that they are like how they're presented themselves on the album.
Well, and I've followed them for a long time, and I mean they haven't changed that aspect of who they are ever. And yeah, they are probably at this point are trying to push the image a little bit, but they are selling their image, and it's not like a umbrella company of some kind pushing and selling their image like Drake or something of that nature. I call BS on a lot of rappers who say stuff, like, oh, there's no way they're actually like that. Ghostwriters, studio gangsters. I pretty much think that these guys are exactly, for the most part, what they put out there. I don't think there's a whole lot of behind the scenes as far as that goes.
Anthony, what negatives did you have?
I think the biggest one for me really was just the fact that I couldn't relate to a lot of it. A lot of it was just like, it was just really good stuff, but it wasn't like, I wasn't like feeling, things or whatever. It's just like, just really good music is really what it was for me. And that's really, I don't really have a lot of negatives. I like the album a lot.
Yeah, I knew I was going to like you.
Jessamine, did you have something you wanted to say a minute ago? Back to Robbie. I cut you off because I was trying to get this thing going. So you guys told me to keep you reined in, but if you got something to say, now's the time.
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. And I think in the moment I was thinking about it, and then I was like, it's not important. We need to move forward. You were doing your job, Zan. Keep it going, man.
Hey, I'm trying to rein this in.
Rein it in.
It goes off the rails really quick if you let it. So. Yep. All right, let's jump into the rating. 1 star being the worst, 5 stars being the best, or in Robbie's case, 1,000,000 stars on some albums. Robbie, what do you got?
I gave this album a straight up 5, bro. Like I said,
wow.
I spent so many years anticipating a new album from them. I wasn't let down. Like I said, I love all the beats, their flow, their originality, how outside the box they think, their image. All of it is just so much different than anything else. That I loved it. Like when it first came out, man, I don't think I stopped listening to it. I know I was hounding you guys like, hey, man, listen to this song, do it, come on. It's like peer pressure to listen to the Flatbush Zombies. Like I said, I loved it. I will probably be listening to this album on repeat until they come out with another one, which hopefully is in another 4 years from now. So all right, 5.
This one we got.
I have 3.5 on it, and the only reason that I have 3.5 on it is just for the same things that have been mentioned before, as far as from my own personal, especially, it took me so many listens to get into it. And also, as we're talking this evening, I don't relate to a lot of those lyrics. It's not my life story. It does sound cool as tone. He was like, it's really good music, and I feel very much the same way. But yeah, it's better than okay. But it's not the best. It didn't blow my brains out of my head, I guess.
All right, I'm gonna give it a 3.25. And kind of opposite of what I would normally do. I thought the music was just okay, but what's outstanding on here is the group vocals. And like Anthony said, it sounds like there's 1,000,000 guys in this group, and like they're all like weaving and coming in and out, and you never know who's coming up with the verse next and what's going to happen next. And like vocally, it was keeping me on my toes throughout the whole album. So I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I thought the originality of everything was absolutely fantastic, but really let down. I would say musically, I only like about half this album, so 3.25 for me. Anthony, what do you got?
I really enjoyed the vocals. I mean, not so much all the lyrics, because like I said before, we've all said we didn't really, can't find a lot of it that we can relate to. But I mean, the beats are super sick. All the beats. It made me when I first listened to it, it made me think of the first thing I thought of was I haven't heard anything like this in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And what it actually kind of reminds me of more now that I think about it is actually it reminds me of a heavier D12. Sounds weird, but it to me that's what it sounds like the album Devil's Night. It sounds like that, but way better, way grimier, and more real.
Mhm.
That's it reminds me of that, but I just haven't heard anything like that in a long time, and I give it a 4.
Wow.
Solid
Nice.
album.
Flatbush.
All right, so that's going to give us an average of right around 4. So
Yeah.
there you go, Robbie. Happy?
Yeah, and I'm done.
One other thing
Nah,
I
I'm
want
out.
to say on here is that it's very refreshing, Anthony, kind of going with what you said. It's really refreshing to see a group again. I think we're kind of in this era where everybody wants to be this, look at me, I'm this hip YouTube sensation MC, look at me. And instead of a collective group where everybody can kind of bring something different to the table to make it, 100 times better.
Yep.
And I think that we need more groups like this. We like Bone isn't a good example. If you want to talk about ICP, I absolutely love Dark Lotus, bringing all
Wu-Tang
those
Clan
guys together. Wu-Tang, they're probably the best example. We just need more groups like this because there's just so much more variety. So, anything else before we get out of here?
No, just everybody make sure you listen to this album. Even if you don't want to, you may actually end up liking it.
It's worth listening to. It's worth it.
All right, guys, thanks for checking out the review. Make sure to check out all of our other shows and subscribe, rate, and review on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Podomatic. Check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to help contribute to the show, check out our Patreon, PayPal, and eBay referral links. Everything I'm referring to, all the links are in the show description. Also, make sure to follow our Vault account and all of our other accounts on Spotify. Again, links in the show description. Until next time, see ya.